Hello, everybody. Um, Today we're going to talk about construction robotics with uh, some amazing individuals. Um, we've got Scott Peters from Construction Robotics. We've got Artem Kuchikov from Kiwazo. We have Mike Ivik from FBR. I'll do a little bit of an introduction and show a video. So let's start with Scott Peters. Okay. Okay, Scott Peters is this co-founder and CEO of Construction Robotics, also known as CR. They are the world leader in robotics and smart lifting equipment focused on the construction industry. CR's products, SAM, a bricklaying robot, and Mule, a smart lift assist device, simultaneously solve for safety, productivity, precision, and achieve more with less. Meet the co-creator of the infamous Mule and SAM, Scott Peters. Scott, I'm going to play your video and tell us a little bit more about CR.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Excited to join this group of people and innovators in the construction industry and talk about how robotics is changing the future of construction. So what you see here in the videos is a couple of our products in action. So at Construction Robotics, we focus on smart lifting, which is what you see here, as well as robotic solutions. And so this is the Mule, a material unit lift enhancer. And the Mule, it fundamentally changes how we lift and move materials on job sites. As you can see here, the big thing you notice is that the mason has their hands on the block. And that's a core of our technology, is that the training is easier, adoption is faster, and we can improve ergonomic safety and productivity at the same time by taking the weight of that block. And then this is SAM. So SAM was the first product we brought to market. It's a semi-automated mason. So it's a bricklaying machine that picks a brick, applies mortar, as you can see here in the video, and installs it in the wall. So think dot matrix printer, right? It's printing those bricks in a wall and allows you to really think differently about how you design your brick veneer structures. Every brick could be a different color. It could be, in and out details, and it allows for intricate brick designs to be installed in that wall. And it takes the repetitive motion of that bricklaying process and eliminates that from the mason. When you start thinking about lifting hundreds of bricks every day, that can take a toll on your shoulders. So we develop products that are aimed at solving for safety, reducing injuries, and improving productivity all at the same time. Thanks, Steve.
Great. Thank you very much, Scott. Whoops. Okay, I'd like to introduce Artem from Kiwazo. Artem is the CEO and co-founder of Kiwazo. Together with his team, they automate the on-site construction logistics with robotics and data. Artem did his master's degree in advanced construction and building technology at the TU Munich in Germany. During this program, he has received a holistic overview of past projects and ground principles of robotics in construction. Before Germany, Artem did his engineering degree in civil engineering in Russia and worked as an operational manager in the logistics industry in the US. Artem, tell us a little bit more about Kiwazo and what you're attempting to do.
Sure, Steve. Thanks a lot for the intro. Yeah, as Steve rightly mentioned, we are tackling on-site construction logistics with robotics and data. In robotics, our first solution is a robotic material hoist lift bot for construction sites and industrial plants. So right now at the video, you see a typical application scenario for us, like oil or gas refinery. Our first application area for the solution, our first so-called beachhead, is a scaffolding assembly. We have found out that scaffolding is one of those areas which suffers almost the most from labor shortage and inefficiency. Also, safety is a huge problem. It's one of the most dangerous works all around the world. This is why we built a lift bot, which basically allows the same scaffolding jobs being done faster and with less people. So for example, the project that you see right now in the video was done with 4 people instead of 7. Generally, it's a huge improvement for this old-fashioned industry. The solution is completely wireless. In this case, it's we use batteries instead of cables, can be quickly installed, and can be used in situations where no other transportation health could be used. It's also one of the main advantages that it's pretty easy to learn. So on average, workers need just an hour in order to learn how it operates. And also, it's not only about hardware, it's also about software. So like while it's working, we collect operational data, such as how much material was transported to which height, when. And by using this data, we can actually give a window for operational, for managers into their processes, so they can actually see why this week only 4 tons of material was assembled instead of 8 tons of material that were assembled last week, right? That gives much more transparency in terms of project management. And later on, we have a big vision on how to collect additional data points so that we can give much more insights to the people from the industry.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, and last but certainly not least, Mike Pivik, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer for Fast Brick Robotics, FBR. Mike Pivik spent 20 years in the aviation sector as an airborne mission coordinator with the Australian Border Protection and Search and Rescue, specializing in electronic detection system and strategic and tactical mission planning, working closely with the Australian and international government and military agencies. He has also owned and operated business in the retail, hospitality, transport sectors, and has been key to the developing FBR's technology, business plan, machine development strategy. He has forged relationships with investors, builders, product suppliers, and future customers pivotal to bringing the Hadrian to life. Let's take a look at that.
Thank you, Steve. This video is of a recent commercial build we conducted in the suburbs of Western Australia. This is the Hadrian X, which is the world's only fully mobile construction robot. We are able to take a simple plan from an architect or a designer. We convert that into a CAD file for the machine, and we load bricks or blocks into the back of the machine, and we build a house, full house structure from the one position through a fully autonomous slewing and telescoping boom. We apply construction adhesive to those blocks as part of the delivery process to our stabilized robotic end effector, which enables us to build without any vertical limitation in a day. The machine can run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It works perfectly well day or night, and in almost all weather conditions that we've been able to test so far. The machine and its design came about through a lack of masons in Australia back in 2005, which is a global trend. And we see masons disappearing all around the world as it's not a 21st century career choice for school leavers. But of course, it's such an important part of the construction sector. So we've automated the building of structures. We 3D print them in effect, and no human hand touches a block throughout the entire process. We're around about 35 times the speed of a human at the moment, and we're moving to 60 times the speed of a human being. And of course, from a safety perspective, as you can see, there's basically 0 people in the workspace at any one time. And again, our company's inception came about through construction industry needs.
Excellent. Thank you all. This should be really, really interesting. So You all mentioned some of the problems that are currently being faced by the construction industry. Safety, huge, productivity, cost overruns, on and on, non-labor shortages. Scott, let's start with you. How are you addressing the problems facing the construction industry with your two technologies, the mule and sand?
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. That's a great question. And I think, when we started down this road, a little bit like Mike was talking about, I think we've been looking at this problem for a long time. And I think when we first started looking at it, exploring some of the challenges that the construction industry faces, I think labor is kind of at the core of it, finding labor, retaining talent, and then the productivity challenges, and not to mention that within construction, you've got some of the highest injury rates, out there. And really, I think, I come from a manufacturing background, and when we started construction robotics, we really wanted to adopt the principles and the ideas of bringing some of the progress that we've made in the manufacturing industry into the construction industry, and thinking about how to really create purpose-built manufacturing processes on construction sites. And that includes reducing safety, reducing injuries. And so when we developed SAM, our first system, it was really aimed at increasing productivity and reducing injuries. And as our technology and our on-site experience has evolved, we brought the mule on, aimed at assistive lifting, because we envision a point in the future where we're not lifting heavy things all day long and building buildings with our backs, but we're leveraging robotic systems, we're leveraging purpose-built material designs, we're leveraging lift assist devices to take that heavy lifting and reduce those injuries on the job site. So, I think that there's so many great technologies out there, and there's many applications. I think a lot of it is how do we start to adopt that thinking, that mindset, and these technologies for construction sites. And that's a big part of what we've done, is to try to look for those opportunities where we can have a strong impact on the construction sites, and that's really what our products are aimed to do. So.
Excellent. Artem, I'll let you take that, because Scott kind of moved it right into the construction site logistics. So how would you answer that one?
I think, yeah, exactly. I think it's a great transition to what we're doing. I think Scott mentioned one of the major problems that the industry has, and they are all known to construction-related people. And this was exactly the thinking that we had behind that. Construction was one of those, it is one of those least automated areas where nothing was where productivity rates were going down for decades. And on my background, the civil engineering and in construction robotics actually, and we during the research phase, we have went through different projects, and we tried to understand what was the inspiration behind the major construction robotics research projects that were done up to date. And we saw that most of them were taking inspiration from manufacturing, or for example, Japanese did those they tried to do fully automated on-site construction factories, where they tried to apply manufacturing principle to on-site construction. And right now we see this trend going towards prefabrication. In our case, we looked into automation of warehousing automation, where nowadays you have robots making data-driven decisions and moving material around almost without people touching material, like what Mike mentioned, right? And our motivation behind was that if you look into construction site, then you see material being handled with hands, where you have literally workers have to kill their backs every day, and all workers have major health problems when they turn 50. So this was kind of our motivation was there should be the way how we bring what happens today in warehouse automation on construction site. And technology nowadays, I think it's ready for that, right? That what Japanese tried to do 20 or 30 years ago was probably too advanced for the time being. And nowadays, robotic technologies can be transferred, or we can adapt the thinking behind the, for example, warehouse automation or manufacturing, and apply that on construction side, because it's all about existing technologies and also like the software, like so how this can be done in a smart way, so how we can use data in order to commission material to the required point. Because at the end construction, I think that what also touches what Scott mentioned, that it's a lot about logistics. It's about material handling, because you need to have a material being transferred from point A to point B, and the way it's installed, then it's something that can be handled by humans. It's something that we learned in our experience, right? I'm really mesmerized by what Mike, but you guys achieved at FBR, having fully automated. I think it's a really step beyond of many existing technologies. But what our learning was that kind of to achieve this fast access to market, we have to employ a human-robot interaction, a human-technical interaction. And this is what, like, our learning shows that this is the fastest way to get there.
Excellent. Thank you. Mike, how about you?
Yeah, look, for many, many years, for centuries in construction, things have remained the same. And, you know, we focused on four main things as a company many years ago. And of course, we did take some inspiration from Scott and what he was doing with the SAM, of course. And I think we've been at it about the same amount of time, which is, you know, I think we're well into our second decade. But we focused on speed, accuracy, safety, and waste reduction as four main areas to attack, if you like. And as both Adam and Scott have mentioned, you know, safety in construction is an area that I feel is at the moment critical and absolutely in need of change. Now, the statistic globally is 160 deaths per day in construction globally. And if we were to see that statistic in the oil and gas or mining sector, we would consider that to be totally unreasonable. And yet in construction, we've grown to accept it, and we do not. And all of us innovators are looking to make vast improvements there. So safety from our perspective was removing people from the work site completely, and we've been able to achieve that. From a waste reduction perspective, the amount of construction waste, particularly masonry waste that goes to landfill, is again something that we felt we could make major inroads into. And we've been able to reduce the masonry waste on a building site by 90%, and we're going to zero now. So we will be able to build a complete house structure or a low-rise commercial structure with zero waste, and we should be there within the next year. From an accuracy perspective, you know, anything that's made by the human hand and a tape measure has quite high tolerances. When you build from a CAD model with a robot, you achieve very, very high levels of accuracy, and that assists in taking construction from a manual process to an automated assembly process. And I think we're all globally, with the companies that are working on this with us, with their noble endeavors, we want to take construction more to an assembly process and therefore improve safety and accuracy and waste removal. And then, of course, there's speed. And we've seen in the construction sector, speed actually not only become paralyzed, but in a lot of cases go backwards over the last 20 plus years, at a time when the world needs housing more than it ever has. And in my global travels, I'm yet to come across a country that does not have an underbuild situation on its hands. And one of the main contributors to that, of course, is skilled labor in this sector. So if we can't encourage young people to take up construction jobs, then those jobs must be taken by machines. And it's up to us guys in this space to continue doing what we're doing to ensure that we can provide the construction sector with a solution to this very important industry. I think it's $13 trillion US per year globally. It's one of the largest, if not the largest, industrial sector in the world, and yet it's suffering from what we believe are some issues or problems that can be solved through automation. So, we've been going at it a long time. We have made some great inroads. I think we've taken longer than we maybe should have, but it's only because we were determined to hit those four main things: speed, accuracy, safety, and waste. And we now have our machines on commercial sites, building real commercial homes and structures for people. And the response that we've been getting is fantastic. But like the other gentlemen on this call, we are pioneers. The road is not easy, and if it was, everyone would be doing what we're doing, gentlemen.
Excellent. The one thing I've noticed with all three of you, you approach the construction industry perpendicular. You're not thinking the way a typical person does. And I look at Uber, Airbnb. Uber was not a cab company. Airbnb was not a hotel chain. So when I think of a disruptive company, I think of you guys because of the work you're doing, because you approach the problems in a different way. So very interesting. Mike, can you tell me how you're knocking down those obstacles to adoption that you're currently facing? They're coming from all different ways. People fear technology. We've done it this way for literally thousands of years. Why should we change? Tell us how you're getting over that hump, and then we'll ask Scott and then you, Artem.
Sure. Look, socializing your technology or product to the construction sector is not an easy endeavor. It is a slow sector to change, and it's very, very cost orientated. So unless you can present a solution to your builder community that is cheaper and can offer some real tangible benefits that affects their annual bottom line, they're very reluctant to take up or change any of their methods. So what we've been doing over the last, at least 5 years is very, very heavily socializing the change that's coming to the building community. And even now, even though our machines are actually getting out there on commercial sites and building for clients, there is still a perception that robots and anything that we create in this sector is going to take people's jobs. But in fact, it's the opposite. What we're doing is we are filling an ever-growing void. And when you point this out to a construction CEO, they only ever agree with you that they need to change. If they continue to do what they did yesterday and expect a different result, then they need help from people other than us. Okay, so they know that they need to change, but they're reluctant to do that because they get pushback from two areas. They get pushback generally from their boards or their colleagues because changing things. Nobody likes change. It's one of the hardest things to get people to adopt with smiles on their faces is change. But also they have the perception that as soon as they introduce any type of automated process, that they can get backlash from their own staff, from their own teams, and that these machines are evil and potentially are going to take their jobs over. And then once we get them on a real site and we integrate our machines and our processes into theirs, we see nothing but happy, smiling faces. So it is a challenge for all of us to get people to change. And it's a slow process, but I only see positive results.
Excellent. Thanks, Mike. Artem, how are you getting over the hump?
Yeah, I think Mike touched a really interesting point. What we have learned, I think we are just probably to mention, we are only at the beginning of our commercial journey, right? Mike and Scott were on the market much longer than us. Right now, we just months ago we have received the official certification and we are about to enter the market with our first batch of units, right? So like right now we have this initial discussions regarding bringing our robots on site on a constant basis. We have done various pilot projects, POCs, since middle of the last year. However, right now we're actually entering this phase when we're going to have it installed on a long-term basis. And what we have learned from our sales discussion so far, and what touches Mike's topic, our customers are afraid of two things. They are afraid to lose their money, and they are afraid to look like fools. And I think the first one is not even a problem, because most of them have money, even though there is an ongoing crisis, and things are maybe not as stable. But as we have seen, construction was one of the areas which wasn't touched much by the ongoing corona crisis. But looking like fools, I think that's the biggest problem, as we know that people in our industry are the ones who will never talk about their problems. They will never talk. They have health issues. It's a like pretty like masculine industry. You know, we've seen an example of a worker falling down from the scaffolding and wouldn't tell anyone about this because he just was afraid to look weak, right? And this is just characterizes our industry at all. So it's kind of I think that what we see in other areas where you have these early adopters and not giving, not caring a lot about opinions of others. I think in our industry, it's much more conservative, and people care a lot about what others think. So it's kind of, for us, our main challenge is kind of create this magic, like to show people that even if something not going to work 100%, then you are still not looking that bad in front of others. And when I say others, I don't mean people outside the company. It's often inside the company, right? We see that CEOs are afraid of making decisions because they know exactly that somebody go on their back and say, hey, why have you done this, right? So like one of the ways how we're trying to right now diversify it, we're trying to be creative in terms of our business models, right? We're trying to offer our customers an opportunity to use our solution with less risk, right? Then when the planned numbers are not going to be exactly as we promised, then it's still okay for them, right? So we are kind of right now exploring on how our customers can use our solution, not on the maybe on shorter terms, and then like achieving certain milestones, and then making further decisions, right? So like as I mentioned, we are like right now entering this phase, and we have many ideas. We actually had many discussions with Scott about this. I think he's the one who already tried everything, literally everything. So it's always a pleasure to have an opportunity to discuss our ideas with him.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like between Mike and Scott, you've got a lot of help. Scott, can you jump in on this one?
Yeah, I think, I think Mike and Artem both covered it really well. The obstacles to adoption. There's so much pride in this industry because it is, the industry is literally built on the backs of the people, the backs and the shoulders of the people out there. And there's so many skilled trades in the industry, so many people that, they take pride in being able to drive by a building and show their kid and say, yeah, I built that by hand. I laid a bunch of bricks in that building by hand, my hands, my trowel in my hand. And especially in masonry, we see that pride is a really, really important piece to that. And so when you think about technology adoption, there's different layers that you need to address. There's the owners of the company that, they want to see more profits. They need to see fast ROI on equipment, and the dollars and cents are really, that matters a lot, as well as the safety of their workers. When you talk about the guys in the field, the men and women that are laying the bricks and block, there's a huge pride piece that comes in to the work that they're doing, the skilled trade that they've spent their career learning. And then you also have like the foremen and the superintendents that are managing the people, managing the job site and the logistics. And as you throw more logistics on them, because there's new equipment, there's new processes, there's new data, there's new information, it becomes almost overwhelming sometimes for them to think about those changes, and they don't want to adopt them. They're like, no, I'll just do it the same way I've always done it because I know I can get it done that way successfully. But I think that, for us, a big piece is really trying to address each of those different pieces in the organization, and that could be training with the people in the field, helping them understand that this is here, that they are going to feel better at the end of the day, if they're integrated, if they're using lift assist technology, or they're going to feel better if they're using SAM, and they can use their mind a little bit more and focus on quality as they work with robotics. And it's not just about the physical lifting of the product, but it's about the finished installation, whether it's using whether it's running a robot that provided the majority of that work and then they do the finishing on it, or whether it's doing it by hand. There's the finished installation is really what matters. And so I think training is a big piece and education is a big piece. And then I think as innovators and as companies that are bringing new technology in the industry, it's part of our job to help de-risk that technology and really partner with all of our contractors and customers in a way that they don't feel like they're in it alone. They're not just taking technology and running off on their own. I think all of us treat it like a partnership when we collaborate with our companies, because we know that their success is going to be our success, and that's how the industry is going to change, one step at a time. So.
Excellent. Really great answers. And you somewhat got into my next topic is, what are your strategies to mitigate the risk to the contractor? And I'm going to let you start off with that, Scott, because you touched on it a little bit, and I thought it was pretty fascinating. So can you run with it a little bit?
Yeah. So just to play on that a little bit further, I think that, you have to understand, your customer. You have to understand who your customer is and the different pieces, right? When we talk about how do you mitigate risk to the owner of a company, well, that comes down to dollars and cents, and that comes down to making sure you understand the value, the speed of their project, right? You can't show up on a project that has to be, delivered to their customer in 30 days and spend a week setting up your machine. And, these are some of the things you learn in the early days as you're understanding the industry and implementing technology. You've got to be ready to go on day one, and you have to understand that true value. And so I think that's a really important piece to really mitigate the risk for them. And then that training piece is really important. There's many times when we have technicians that are hands-on with the masons and helping them understand it, because you can't have technology that's intimidating, right? I think any new technology to people in the industry, anything that distracts them from what they're used to doing, it can be a distraction and a challenge. And so we have to make it so that it's seamless, and it feels second nature to them, right? It feels like, okay, that's the way I do it. And the big piece is some of the training and the adoption. And we've trained people that have been in the industry that are late in their careers, and we may train those guys a little bit different than the people, that are very young and early in their careers, because you get different attitudes at different stages. The guy who's been in the industry a long time, he's maybe less comfortable pushing the buttons and programming a machine, but you know what? When he feels good at the end of the day, he loves it. The guy that's new into the industry, the person that's new into the industry, they don't mind lifting the heavy stuff. They don't mind doing the heavy work. But they're going to adopt that technology a lot faster. They love playing with the technology. And so there's different training techniques for these different people, and you have to really understand that and set your approach a little bit differently. But it's a pretty amazing industry to work in. And as you see people that have spent their whole career working with trowels and bricks, and see them running a robotic piece of equipment and get excited about it, it's pretty it's transformational and exciting. And that to us is the seeds that indicate the future of where we're going. So I'll let the other guys jump in on this, but.
Excellent. Artem, I'll let you take next.
Yeah, actually, when I think about Scott words, then the following calculation comes to my mind: how our I think that the pillar, the main foundation of our the use of technology, that actually making sure that technology makes sense to our customer. It's a business case, or making sure that there is a value, monetary value to our customers in our technology. And I think this is you always in construction robotics, that's a founding piece of this Maslow's pyramid, right? That making sure that it saves money, then we can jump to the next levels, right? And for us, it always means that customers can work efficiently with technology, so they can save a certain amount of man hours per application day. And the second component is applicability, so how many days per year the technology can be deployed. And talking about the first topic, or first amount of man hours saved, it's all about how efficient the customers are using the technology. And this is what touches the Scott topic, that how whether they feel fine about this, whether they can operate it correctly, whether it's easy to operate. This is why, for example, for us, it was one of the main focus, one of the main goals, to make the technology easy to operate. so that like at the end we I think we manage that, or we are managing that, because for us it takes just an hour for technology, like for workers to learn how to operate our technology. And but again, trainings is an important component of that. We always trying to like be near, like when the first deployments are done, that we always send our engineers, that they're nearby, they're explaining them how it works, and also that there is a human component into this. We also hire like people from the industry so that they can actually speak the same language, which is very important. And the second component of our like business case, it's amount of like applicability, like applicability days, right? So and this means that there should be just enough days for technology being used. So for our cases, we're talking about like at least 100 applicable days, right? And what it means that what Scott mentioned, that that there are minimum breakdowns of the technology, right? And we mitigate it by using telemetrics, right? So we always have an access to the like live access to our systems, the lift bots, and we can actually, if there are any stops, we can actually within 2 hours we can find out what happened, and if there are any, if there's something that cannot be fixed by customers, then we send our engineers on site. This is at least how like our strategy for making sure, like in early stage of the like we can provide the best customers to our the best service to our customer service to our customers. And how, like for sure in the future we plan on tackling this with potential partners. And but at the same time, the technology should be just should be in such a way that it can be widely used for a wider range of applications, so that it's not only. I think that one of the main challenges for construction robotic solutions is to build such a technology that can be applied for most of the cases, right? We're not talking about here 100% of the cases, like 70, 80% of the cases. If the technology is there, then it's already really good. It's a really good technology, because I think this is what most of the solutions are struggling right now. And I think this, like whoever finds or whoever builds the one that can be applied for most of the cases, then I think this will be the most successful at the end.
Excellent, excellent. Hey, Mike, I'm going to lead you a little bit. Can you talk about the use of simulation and maybe some on-site type building before you get to the job site?
Yeah, sure. So what we do is once we receive the architectural file from the builder, from the building company, we run it through a digital twin, which tells us exactly how many bricks or blocks are in that structure, how many cuts are involved, how much waste to the kilo that particular design is going to create, and exactly how many hours that machine will be deployed on site. So using digital simulation tools is a great way of gaining your client's confidence early. And you say, look, this is what it's going to cost you. This is how long it's going to take. And this is not only how much waste you're going to create, but this is how much positive effect you can make on the environment by doing this way. And then, of course, for us, we've got very large, fully mobile construction robots. One of the things that confuses construction CEOs is, well, how do I buy these, and how do I train my people, and what happens when one goes wrong? And our answer to that is we provide wall as a service, or wall on call. We put machines in places where the building activity is high, and then the building client, all they have to do is send us their file. We give them a quote, we give them an accurate time of machine arrival and departure, and they just pay by the square meter. They don't have to invest in robots. They don't have to try and train their people on how to use them. We do the recruitment and the training of young men and women, because given this is we're taking the physicality out of this problem. And we're putting people behind HMI controllers or computer screens, and building that way without needing to use your backs or using your hands. While they may be skeptical early, you only have to show them the benefits of it once, and then you've got them. And it's getting that first breakthrough, that first entry into a new client. Everyone's skeptical. Everyone thinks that you're going to cost them more money and you're going to take them longer and you're going to create them problems. And when you go to a site, you have to be good at what you do, and your machinery has to work, and the benefits have to be tangible and visible and real. And at the end of the entire construction job, when they think about all the things that took place to complete that job and hand the keys over to the client, they have to look at your machine and your solution as a part of the success of that job, not something that created them an issue or that cost them more money or more time. And I think this is one of our greatest challenges. Now, I'm involved in two separate initiatives around the world where we are setting up construction robotic institutes or customer experience centers in two different parts of the world, one not too far from you, Artem, in fact, where construction CEOs will be able to view a number of different technologies working in concert with each other. And I think one of the things that we could do better as CEOs of our own companies is to cross-promote better than what we have in the past. We're not competing against each other here. We're all trying to achieve the same thing. And therefore, when I'm talking to people, particularly outside of Australia, about our technology, I often mention other things that are coming along in the space also, because the construction CEOs have to know that change is coming. In fact, it's here, as Steve's pointed out. Change and the future is here. It's just not evenly distributed right now. All the CEOs of the major construction companies have it as a KPI to improve their ESG percentages, so their environment, their safety, and their governance. Your solution has to show them how what you do assists them with their own internal KPIs. How does it assist them and their company to achieve, better output, much higher safety percentages than what they're getting at the moment? How do they improve their environmental impact? These are all things you need to point out as part of your sales pitch, if you like. And I never talk about the Hadrian machine or FBR's product offering without mentioning the other benefits that are coming along also, the other companies that are developing their technologies too. And I think we should do more of that together because we are trying to change something that has been in place for thousands of years. We have the ability now to do things much better, but we are trying to change an industry that is renowned for being reluctant to take on new methods, change to different materials for fear of that potentially creating a cost blowout and potentially, what they would consider a failure as a project. So, our focus is on making sure we have happy customers at the end of the day, that their experience with technology has been positive. And then they start to think about, well, what else could we do? If we're doing it like this with the robot, what other interesting technologies are there out there? And again, I often do introduce them to different technologies that I've seen around the world. And we've all got to push, we've all got to keep pushing hard. We've worked hard on our product. We've got to work hard on pushing it into the industry. And we've got to work hard on making our own companies successful. And it's why we all work 15 or 16-hour days, because there's just so much involved in making a change in this particular industry.
Hey, Mike. Okay, so right now we're at the 45 minutes. If there's questions from the audience, they should appear on the chat. But I'm going to keep the conversation going until a question pops up, and then I'll throw it out there. Um, in the time we have remaining, where do you see the construction site of the future? What is your vision for your technology as it matures? Where do you see your vision? Artem, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Scott and then to Mike.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we take our vision from automated warehouse logistics. So our vision goes in the direction of that what happens today, like as you imagine, like an Amazon logistics center, it allows you to order a package today and get it tomorrow, right? And we kind of envision the same happening on construction sites where you have robots moving in 3 dimensions and making data-driven decisions by using like various sensors, by using computer vision, right? So this way, taking strain from people, right, and improving safety, improving efficiency and the speed of operations. And this is like we have a clear idea how this is going to happen.
Okay, Scott, would you let me throw the one question in, and then we'll get to Scott and then to Mike. Mike, where are the 2 innovation centers located? Was the question that came in.
Yeah, one will be in Germany and the other one in Dubai.
Okay, interesting. And then maybe at the end you can talk a little bit about that. So Scott, what is your construction site of the future vision look like?
Yeah, I think for us, and I want to play a little bit of what Mike talked about, which is that a lot of these different technologies are going to be interacting and on job sites together. I think our vision for the future is that the construction site of the future will be a significantly safer place. We'll have a very diverse workforce where women and smaller stature people can be interacting with heavier and bigger materials, where people go to work and they know that they're safe, and they know that when they go home at the end of the day, they feel good and they go home and lift their kids up without blowing out a shoulder. And that's at the core of our principles, right? Is that we have a safe, productive job site of the future. And I think that, that the holistic picture is that as we work with these construction companies, these developers to implement robotic solutions, automation solutions, lift assist, new technology like we're all developing, the construction site of the future will be one that is planned out in advance. We have a plan, we know how to execute it, and it's achieved much more safely than it is today, higher levels of productivity, and on schedule and on budget. And overall, I think that the industry itself will win, and the new technology will be there. And you might not even realize how much technology is behind the scenes, but all that data and all that information that comes with it will allow us to do a lot more with less.
Scott, I'd love to dig in on many of the points you had in our pre-conversations, but we got another question that came in. Where to get started? Prefab, housing? Have any of you used Spot, the dog from Boston Dynamics? And are you thinking about building smart from the start, from the factory level? Scott, you've got a manufacturing kind of background. Artem, you've got the logistics warehouse. Mike, you've got just amazing background in many different areas. How do you think? Is it an and? Is it an or? Is it on-site and? Go ahead, Scott. You're up.
Yeah, I guess just let me throw in a couple of things. I mean, I think that there's many solutions that are, it's not going to be one thing, right? I think there's going to be a lot of different solutions in a lot of different areas. Prefab is definitely a part of the overall solution, right? There's many areas where prefab is very successful in construction today. There's many areas where it's taken a lot longer to adopt. And I think that as more and more robotic solutions come online, prefab is going to be a component of that. I mean, we had one of our contractors use SAM to prefab brick walls off site and then bring them into the job site because of access. So it starts to open up a little bit of a lot more options, I guess, that are available to people. So, I think to address some of the questions, I think prefab is definitely a part of the solution, but I don't see a scenario where it's the only solution. I think that it is a piece of the overall picture. And, I think as far as Spot from Boston Dynamics, just to address that, I've seen it. I've never utilized it. I think it's amazing technology that will be deployed in many successful applications on construction sites. But I'll let the other guys jump in too here.
Okay, Artem, I'll let you take it, and then we'll give Mike some time to talk about his construction site of the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted just to mention here that, like, the topic that Mike mentioned already, that that the industry is just so huge, and there are so many opportunities, and it's one of the least automated areas. So there are like just so much that can be done nowadays. It's really like a blue ocean, and we can just imagine ourselves being a small boat in like a huge ocean, right? And I think like anything that goes towards the direction of improving this industry, automating it, changing people's minds, to like making them more open-minded to new technologies. I think all of this is a just great achievement, and it all goes towards the same direction. As Mike mentioned, they're not competing against each other. And when they read about other construction automation startup anywhere around the world, I'm just happy about this, because this means that we are not crazy at the end of the day, and what we're doing makes sense. And we know this, right? But people around us should have the same understanding in order to give this wave a power, And I think all of those solutions which mentioned in the question, such as prefab, like robots of Boston Dynamics. I think Boston Dynamics is just doing amazing jobs in terms of marketing, right? Everybody knows about this, and having their robots being applied on construction sites, it's a really positive thing for all of us, because it just confirms that this is coming, and this is a part of it, and we generally, like, what we're doing also makes sense. So I think it's all of this makes all of this a contribution to the same problem.
Okay, Mike, I'm going to give it to you for a couple minutes, and then I've got one last question, and I'll give you each a minute to end the thing. So, Mike, couple minutes on your vision.
Yeah, thank you. Look, in my experience, building methods and building styles are different everywhere in the world, and it's for two reasons. It's because of the availability of building materials and the availability of the skilled labor to use those building materials. And a very easy or simple example of that is the amount of timber frame construction we see in North America versus the Middle East or the Gulf States region. Now, there is no timber industry in the Middle East, and it's very difficult to find a carpenter. But everything is concrete. It's made of block, or it's formed and poured. So therefore, we see a very large market for our construction robots in the Middle East, for instance. And in the southeast parts of North America, we also see a lot of block construction. But the further north and the further west you head, you see less and less of that. In some parts of the world, prefab works very well. Modular works very well. We've seen some companies set themselves up around the world. I mean, prefab is not a new idea. Prefab has been around since around about the year 1900. And what we see with prefab is it becomes less and less effective the further you move away from the factory. And that's why we believe, and I think most of my pioneer colleagues believe, that in situ solutions will always have a very important part to play in construction. Some of our clients are using our robots to build the bottom story of a house, and they're lifting a prefabricated second story onto the house because that's simple to do. So while we're building the bottom, someone in a factory is building the top. The top doesn't have to be as heavy as the bottom. So we build a light timber frame pod, and that gets lifted onto the top of a Hadrian built structure. And all of a sudden you have a combination of methods and materials producing a much faster and cheaper outcome for the client. So the answer is all of these materials, methods, and construction robotic solutions are needed, and they will all have their place in the industry.
Hey, we're just giving 14 extra minutes if you guys can keep it going, because we've got a great question and then I want to give you time, each a couple of minutes to finish up. The
Right.
question is, technology is easy. What's needed is the people, the process, the culture, the hierarchy. Really, what this question is asking, can a typical construction company integrate technology, or will it be somebody from outside the industry to create a new Uber construction company and disrupt the current construction industry like Uber did the cab industry, like Airbnb did the hotel? You don't have to own the room to make the money. So who wants to take it? Free for all. Who thinks it's going to be a new or exist?
Look, I'll chime in there. If you use Uber as an example, I suppose, and try and align that with what we're trying to do with robotics and automated solutions in construction, it's almost like we're not trying to create Uber, we're trying to build the car here, you know, and we're never going to build the car unless we all push our technologies along the same pathway. And I've been saying this for a number of years. In fact, last time Scott and I were together in the US, we were also with another robotics construction CEO, and we had a chat about this, and we all agreed that there's no one robotics construction company that's going to be the Uber. I think it's going to be a combination of all of us that will potentially provide an Uber type solution to the industry. Now, the construction side of the future, in my view, will be robots pumping and auto-screeding concrete. It will be robots laying bricks and blocks. It will be robots placing robotically constructed roof trusses. It will be robots putting on roofing materials. And then inside the house, potentially you'll have either materials that have been created robotically in a factory and then brought to site and fitted in a way that has the least impact on humans and with the least amount of people involved. Now, this industry is going to automate, and once they get a taste of the Kool-Aid, there will be no turning back for them. So if you look at anyone that has introduced any new technology into their company, there's been very few examples of where they've thrown it out. They've adopted it, and then they've managed to adjust the other processes and procedures within their organization to help with that adoption. One thing I'd like to touch on this opportunity is the gender inequality, the gender inequality that exists in construction. It's one of the highest of any industry globally. And automation doesn't just attract the young, bright minds that are coming out of schools and universities into the industry. It actually opens up the industry to men and women when we have the machines doing the hot, hard, and heavy stuff. Okay, and I think everything that we are all doing will assist in providing jobs for men and women in construction in the future, and they will all positively impact how the human body looks after 40 or 50 years in the industry. We will all provide a positive impact on the environment in one way or another, simply by using less materials and doing things faster. And the end result of everything that we are all trying to achieve here should be that construction one day becomes the safest industry to work in the world. And you know, when I retire, maybe 20 or 30 years from now, that has to be the legacy that's left behind by all of us, that we can look at that and we can say to our grandchildren, you know, before you were born, it used to be done like this. But, you know, here we are, and, you know, you're working in the construction industry and you're using some amazing machines and technology, and people want to be you. You know, people will want to, young people will want to come into this industry because they will want to use these amazing machines and tools and gadgets and software that's coming through right now. So I think construction is in such an exciting place right now. Maybe not so much for the people that are currently in it, but for the younger generation that are going to be in it, I think it's never looked brighter myself.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so let's end it all with everyone gets about 3 minutes. Scott, we kept you quiet the longest, so I'll let you start off. Give us 3 minutes of your thoughts. I really liked what Mike touched on with the fact that all you guys are doing things to reduce the physical strain, which opens up the ability to attract many other people. So your 3 minutes, Scott, go for it.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Let me jump on a couple of things there. I think just to play a little bit on what Mike talked about, which I love. I'm sitting here in my office looking at a picture of my daughter when she was 5 years old, learning to run SAM. Holding the tablet and literally running SAM as a 5-year-old girl. And I love it because to me that is the future of the industry. I mean, not employing 5-year-olds, but you get it. I think the future of the industry is that there is going to be equality and that it is a fun place to work, and it opens up a lot more opportunities for people coming in the industry. And I think that, I definitely, we're all on board with that vision, and that is, I think, the same legacy that we want to leave, which is that this is a safe industry. And like we talked about earlier, an industry where, when you go to work, you come home at the end of the day and you're full of energy and not beat up and tired and trading your body for a paycheck. So, that's a major part of the vision. I think it's a major part of our responsibility as an industry and bringing people in. And Steve, I want to address one of the questions that came up about, where to get started and the idea of kind of the people and the mindset and how to deal with those challenges, because I think it's easy for us as technology companies to be in there and talk about our new technology and the great technology and what it's going to do for the company. And everyone gets excited when you're in the conference room. But when push comes to shove, where the industry is a little bit slower to adopt is kind of that it's at the heart of the question that's being asked, which is how do you get started, right? How do you get over that hurdle of getting going with this new technology? And I think we all face that. We all face that little bit of barrier to entry, right? It's exciting to talk about, but wait, now I actually have to put it on my job. And I think we all talked about risk mitigation and everything, but so much is in, I think that the attitudes of the people that are out there in these construction companies and the understanding that the solutions that are going to be implemented, there's got to be a little bit of an openness to change. There's got to be a little bit of openness to adopt and take a step back and think about the bigger implications of what they're doing, right? Many times it's easy to think about, well, what do I have to accomplish on this job this week? But if you take a step back and we think about what we want to accomplish as a company over the next few months or the next year, or as an industry over the next 5 and 10 years, that's where it's important to start technology adoption today. And the exciting thing that we've seen for technology adoption is that even some of the small companies, we've actually had really strong success with adoption with new technology, because when you get the owners that are out there working hands-on with the people in the field, they understand the physical implications, they understand the safety risks, they understand the value of productivity, because it means everything to their livelihood. And so they in many cases, they're open to trying new technology and adopting rapidly. And I think what we need is we want the bigger companies to be thinking with that same level of mindset of thinking to the future, but being ready to implement technology today and doing it, like we said, with the right level of collaboration with us. So I hit on a few things there, jumped around a little bit, but just wanted to share a little bit of my thoughts on that one.
Thank you so much, Scott. Really, really appreciate it. Artem, you're the young kid in the group. You don't have near the whiskers that I actually got more whiskers than these guys, but what's your thoughts? How are you going to end your 2 minutes?
Yeah. As I mentioned, we've been on sites like since middle of last year, and as we have a small team, like we are just like 20 people, and many of the sites, I was personally there. I was operating our robot, assisting our customers, talking to them, seeing how their opinion radically changed from I'm never gonna need something like this to like I love this, I want this. And one thing that we noticed with my coworkers always said that construction site is a place where people, once they get there, the first thought they have is when I'm gonna leave, right? At what time I will have an opportunity to leave from here to do more exciting stuff, right? To my families, right? And I think this is even if we analyze just for us internally, when we analyze any construction robotics commercial nowadays, all of them are appealing to the same question. Hey guys, you will have an opportunity to go home on time and safe, right? And I think this is a main, this just shows where the industry today, right? Then we can ask ourselves a question: how did we get to the point that one of the major, one of the economic driven industry is operating on people who are just not excited to be on site, who just the only thing they think about, God, please let me leave from site today safe and on time, right? And this is just, if you think about this, millions of people around the globe facing these challenges, right? They're not excited about what they do. And I think for us, it's just a clear sign that things just got to be better. And I think what Mike and Scott mentioned, that I think that technology, we saw that the way how things are being done today is just got to the limits. And as we saw in examples in many other industries, right? For example, manufacturing, right? In just to think about this, 100 years ago, or 150 years ago, we had 9 years old spending 16 hours per day on factories, and it was a norm. It was a state of the art. It was how things were done normally, right? And if you think about this today, it just sounds crazy to us, right? So my vision and my hope that in 50 or 100 years, it's going to be mostly a history museums, where they're going to show how people were working or how they were suffering from working on construction sites, and that it will be not even near to what we see today, that it will really be operated with robots, with technology, and people are going to be excited, and people are going to be proud of being on sites, and this is going to be one of the coolest thing to do, right? This is exactly what Mike mentioned, and I think all of us are kind of working towards the same direction.
I really like those comments. Once again, making construction, rather than it being onerous, enjoy working. $13 trillion into the economy, to have people so unhappy, to have it so unsafe.
Exactly.
You bring up some incredible points, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I'd like to use the last couple of minutes to talk about some things that may be a little unusual, but the fact that in a $13 trillion sector, up to 30% of that amount of money evaporates through inefficiencies. $3+ trillion a year is evaporating through inefficiencies, when in some and in a lot of cases there are solutions there that are not being taken up to alleviate that. So my message now is to the people that are in the audience or viewing this forum, the business leaders, those that have a responsibility not only to their company to make it more productive and profitable, but they have a responsibility to humankind in general. And that's to be a champion of change within your organization. In a lot of cases, a lot of you will have KPIs around safety improvements, waste reduction, productivity improvements, and improving your bottom line. And yet the hardest thing for us pioneers to do is to get in front of you. You must make it easier for people like us who are developing solutions for you to get to you. Most of us would have experienced in our time the difficulty of trying to work our way up through a company's ecosystem to get in front of the change influences within an organization. Those that have the ability to actually make it a positive decision to change the way that they're currently doing things. So I plead with the business leaders that view this to make it easier for technology pioneers to get to you, okay? And then to truly assess what it is that you want to leave behind as your legacy, okay? If you want to leave the industry behind the way you found it, then you have failed in your responsibility to those that are coming along behind you. Your responsibility is to adopt change when it's there to be adopted, to make improvements in all of those areas that I mentioned, okay? And please make it easier for pioneers of change and those that are spending their lives and their money trying to solve the problems that exist within your organization. It is very difficult for us to get to you. I'm not having so many problems now, but you know, that's something that wears us down. And it's something that takes up way too much of our energy, is just trying to get through to the change influences or the change makers of construction companies. So that is the message that I would like to leave behind with everybody.
Well, Mike, very well said. I'm sure everyone knows exactly the pain that you have gone through. You know, I can't thank Drastic enough for putting this on, because I have met some of the most interesting individuals. This conversation was just fun, and you know, we've got to do it again sometime. The mental horsepower is just phenomenal. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Mike, have a great morning. Artem, go to sleep, and I'm going to have a good evening. So take care, everyone. Scott, Artem, Mike, bye-bye.